Members of the public are advised that the meeting will be live streamed and recorded, and the live stream and video recording will be made publicly available on YouTube and Council's website. Nillumbik Shire Council acknowledges the Wurundjeri people, who are the traditional custodians of this land. We would also like to pay respect to the elders both past and present, and extend that respect to other Indigenous Australians present. We've got a good governance pledge tonight, councillors, and Councillor Ramachan is going to read that for us.
Thank you, Mayor. As councillors, we are mindful of our civic responsibilities and obligations. We pledge to take them seriously and to carry them out with diligence and integrity. We know the decisions we take will affect the people and the environment of Nillumbik now and in the future. We undertake, therefore, to make sound and principled decisions of lasting value in a spirit of fairness and for the good of all. We also pledge to serve the needs and well-being of the community and the environment in an open and honest manner and to the best of our abilities.
Thanks, Councillor Ramachan. Next we have a prayer, and I'd like to introduce Pastor Sally Agostino. I'll just ask Sally to come forward. Sally is a pastor at Southern Cross Community Church in Eltham. It's a church that's been running for 23 years. It was started by a group of people who felt a strong pull to share their love of God with their local community. They met at the Eltham Senior Citizens Hall. They've developed a garden at St Vincent's in Eltham. They've worked with refugees, provided clothing and food relief, and are always looking for ways to bring hope to Eltham and beyond. They're an eclectic group who do a lot for our community, and it's an honour to have you here to say a prayer for us. Sally, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege to be here. I started in my role only 5 months ago, 1 week before the second lockdown. So it was a really interesting time to be starting a new role, and I'm sure for many of you starting in a new role, it's equally challenging. And I plan on praying for you, but I decided to take 1 minute. Ali gave me permission for this, so I'll give you that. 1 minute to tell you a very brief story which will be very relevant, I'm hoping, for you. There's an ancient text. It's from the book of Esther in the Bible, so it's a Jewish text. It's about from the 5th century BC, so a very ancient story. And it's the story of an unassuming Jewish girl who becomes the Queen of Persia. It's dated towards the end of the Persian period. And it's unique in 2 ways. One is that the focus of the story is a female, very unusual in those days. Secondly, it's a book of the Bible that has no mention of God, but he's working behind the scenes, making things happen. And I guess the reason I bring it up is because at one point in this narrative, her cousin comes to her and says, "You need to save your people. We don't want a Jewish genocide to go on." And he says this, and you may have heard this oft quoted sentence that he speaks to Esther. "And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this." Whether you're returning to your positions here or whether you're brand new to this role, I am really grateful for a council that is looking to help a community that is struggling with environmental issues, economic issues, pandemic repercussions. And who knows that you have come to this position on council for such a time as this. So it's my privilege to pray for you as you start your meeting tonight. And I have an inkling that whether you have your eyes open or shut, God hears either way. So let's pray. Father God, creator of the world, we come to you, people who aim to lead in these uncertain times. We grieve what's happened to our planet. We grieve what greed and injustice has done to land and to people. We grieve the lives and incomes a pandemic has taken. We look to you, God, for a wise and practical way forward, knowing that it's going to take more than our own individual training and experience to make a way. We ask you for a spirit of unity and solidarity in this Nillumbik team, even when there are differing views on how to tackle important local issues. We ask for solutions that will help both planet and people. Call us to a profound trust in your faithful presence. Amen.
Thanks very much, Sally. The next item is presentations, but we've got a couple of presentations tonight. The first is are the Northern Business Achievement Awards. And we've got two local Nillumbik businesses who have been recognised for this year's Northern Business Achievement Awards. And so congratulations from Council to Blue Pear Pantry, and they won the Best Startup or Micro Business Award. And Ben Hutchison Landscapes, who won the Sustainability Award. The awards highlighting business excellence in Melbourne's north were presented at an online grand finale on Thursday the 3rd of December. Blue Pear Pantry are based in North Warrandyte, and they produce handcrafted pastries for food service, wholesale resale and direct online sales. All ingredients are sourced locally and direct from farmers wherever possible. Ben Hutchison Landscapes are based in Eltham. They specialise in Australian native landscape design. Sustainability is at their heart, with a focus on maximising available rainwater regionally and sustainability sourced materials wherever possible, and the use of Indigenous and Australian native plants. So we've got a couple of short videos on both the award recipients. We're going to start with Blue Pear Pantry. It's about a 1 or 2 minute video that will just highlight the work they do. And no sound. All right, so it doesn't seem we've got any sound. If we do get sound, we'll come back to that. The next one is a top award that we received for the Eltham North Adventure Playground. So our much loved Eltham North Adventure Playground has won a major National Design Award. The KidSafe National Place-Based Design Awards recognise excellence and innovation in the provision of safe, creative play spaces across Australia. Eltham North Adventure Playground, designed by Jarvin's Landscape Architects with Gardner Architects and constructed by Naturform, was the winner in the Public Play Spaces $1 million to $3 million category. The KidSafe Awards showcase the achievements of communities working with designers and the playground industry in creating amazing play environments. Our community was devastated when the original playground was destroyed by fire in 2017, December of that year. The new playground was rebuilt in a huge collaboration with community and opened only a year after the fire. And look, I'd just like to recognise Councillor Duffy and her involvement throughout that process. It's great to see her here on council. The design followed extensive consultation and was based on the ideas and feedback from the community with the key themes of adventure, climbing and nature play. The designers worked to balance replicas on the previous design elements with new ideas, paying homage to the traditional woodshed and the history of the area. So, councillors, that's the award that received the other day on behalf of council. Myself and Councillor Duffy were there to receive that award. If we think we've got the video, we might have another attempt at sound.
Hi, I'm Deb from Blue Pear Pantry. We are a home-based business and we make award-winning pies and sausage rolls. It came to a point in time where it was time for me to go back to work. So the kids were going to be both at school, so I thought, I've got all this free time, I'll get a job. So I come from a background of project management, and before that I actually worked at a popular fast food chain where I was a manager for 5 years. And applying for all these jobs online, nothing came back. And it gets really nasty after a while. You go, oh, what's wrong with me? I've got all these different things that I can do. So I knew some people that started their own businesses, and I thought, well, I can do that too. When we started the business, we started with a whole range of healthy meals that were free-range chicken, grass-fed beef, and just no preservatives, no additives, just wholesome cooking. And then I entered some products into the Australian Food Awards. One of the sausage rolls come back with a silver medal, so it took us 12 months, but then we just changed the whole business just to do pies and sausage rolls. Altogether we have 12 awards. They are from the Australian Food Awards, Great Aussie Pie Competition, Great Aussie Sausage Roll Competition, Australia's Best Pie Competition. So the good things about having a business in Nillumbik is the support you get from all the other businesses that you know and have grown to love over the time. And even doing the deliveries out to places that you'd never actually go just to see, sort of thing, and you just be driving along, oh, I love my job, because of the scenery that's around it. Since COVID has happened, we've had to modify our business model a little bit, so now we have an online shopping cart where you can go to our website, which is bluepearpantry.com.au, and you can order from there, and either myself or my husband will deliver it contact free.
I'm Ben from Ben Hutchinson Landscapes. We do design and construction of Australian native gardens, specialising in water features, habitat, using a lot of natural materials. It was originally a career change for me. I was a chef for about 10 years and I decided I'd had enough of that and wanted to try something different. Started working in a nursery in Plenty, and I really enjoyed helping people pick the plants for their gardens, so I thought, well, I'm going to give it a go and we'll get out and just start designing the gardens. We did that for a couple of years, and then a colleague of mine gave me the opportunity to build a garden at the Flower and Garden Show back in 2018, and it's just exploded from there. We have exhibited at the Melbourne International Flower and Garden Show twice. First time in 2018, we did a 100 square metre show garden, and then 2019 we did about a 130 square metre show garden. We've exhibited twice at the Practically Green Festival, and we exhibited a few years ago at the Sustainable Living Festival in Federation Square. We won an award for our garden at the 2019 Melbourne Flower and Garden Show. All of the suppliers that we use are really, really helpful. They're really good to deal with. Try to keep it local as much as possible.
Great, thanks for that. And yeah, awards well deserved. Confirmation of minutes. Councillor is looking for a mover and a seconder that the minutes of the council oath and the affirmation office proceedings held on the 17th of December and the extraordinary council meeting held on the Tuesday 24th of November be confirmed. Councillor Duffy, do you have a seconder? Councillor Payne?
Yep, I will second.
Any discussion? Take it as carried. Disclosure conflicts of interest. Any conflicts, councillors? The next item is petitions. So a petition containing 4,696 online signatures requesting save ecosystems from damaging developers in Diamond Creek was received, and we note since then there's more signatures. The online petition is still live, and it's now gone up to 5,316 signature. It's a petition that began due to the concern for a beautiful little valley bordered by Collard Drive, Panorama Drive, Herbert's Rise Estate and Broad Gully Road. The petitioners are concerned about future development of that area, and potentially not much room for saving the local flora and fauna. So it's a petition that really highlights the local community respect for the area, in spite of the zoning for it, which may not protect as much of the environment and the flora as we would like. But it certainly put it on the radar for planners. And we've got a recommendation from the officers. If I find a councillor happy to move the officer recommendation.
I'm happy to move that.
As per the papers, Councillor
As
Ramshaw?
per the papers.
Yep. And a seconder? Councillor Duffy. Any discussion on the petitions? We'll put that to the vote. All in favour? Against, it's carried. The next item is questions from the gallery. We've got the first question from Brian Murray, and Brian Murray is in the gallery with us tonight. Thanks for coming along, Brian. It's indeed an honour for you to ask the first question, so well done. And the question is, what are the savings to council finances and therefore the community achieved by each of the last two mayors, Clark and Egan, by not having a mayoral car? So the net savings achieved over the 4 years were $22,105. And the breakdown over those 4 years is as follows. The year one savings were $14,930. Year two was $5,961. Year three savings were $3,337. And the year four cost was $2,142. So this amount considers the estimated running costs of the vehicle, the offset by reimbursements from mileage claimed by the former mayors over the entire period. Brian's got a second question, and what is the budgeted total cost for the purchase of the mayoral car, including vehicle cost, governance charges and taxes, stamp duty, registration, insurance, budgeted maintenance and fuel, and carbon offset program? Brian, the purchase price of the vehicle is $41,359, which includes registration and other on-road costs. The annual cost of the vehicle, including estimated running costs, is $13,765.88. Yes, you can have that in writing, Brian. You can probably have my copy as soon as I've finished with it. I'll give you my copy as soon as I've finished with it. We've got a question also from Mary McDonald, Brian's partner. Good to have you along tonight, Mary. And Mary asks, will the Deputy Mayor or other councillors be requesting a fully maintained council vehicle for their personal use, as they will all be attending the same meetings and attendance at council offices and functions as the Mayor? Well, the response to that, I'll read out what's written here. I'll add my own comment in a sec. As per the council expense policy, there is a provision for the mayoral vehicle only. The Deputy Mayor and councillors are entitled to claim reimbursements for travel costs if incurred when undertaking council business. And it's certainly not true that the Mayor and council officers and councillors all attend the same events. The Mayor certainly attends a lot more events than any other councillor generally. Mary's second question is, what differentiates, can't even say it, the need for a car for the Mayor from the Deputy Mayor or other councillors? So with respect to motor vehicle, the council expense policy allows for elected Mayor to have a vehicle. The Deputy Mayor and other councillors are able to claim a reimbursement for travel costs incurred while undertaking council business. Hope that answers the question, Mary. So the difference is the Mayor's entitled to a vehicle and the Deputy Mayor or other councillors are not under the policy.
Can we ask questions of the questionnaires or not? No?
Not usually.
Okay.
No. Travis Hall has asked a question, and he states, and there's a bit of a prelude, I suppose, to his question, and it's there on the screen. He congratulates us all for being elected as council for the next 4 years. He provides some stats in relation to demographics, and I'll read it out. According to the demographic resources for the Nillumbik Shire Community Profile 2016, stated on your own website, the largest religious group is the Western Roman Catholic at 24%. The broader Christianity total was 48.5%, while 41.1% of people stated they had no religion and 7.4% chose not to respond. In fact, according to the 2016 census, religion is declining rapidly across Australia, with Christianity hovering at only 50%, down from 88% in 1996. Quite simply, having no religion is becoming the new normal in Australia, according to Travis. And his question is, I can understand that tradition plays an important consideration here, however, so must diversity and inclusion. It was interesting to observe that 4 of the 7 councillors decided to go with the affirmation over the Bible, an oath option during your special swearing-in ceremony on 17th of November 2020. If we want to be seen as an inclusive community which allows for greater diversity for all residents of this great shire that we live in, I hope that we can review the need for this particular part of our council meetings going forward. And the question actually is, as a diverse and inclusive community, I was wondering why we still feel the need to hold a prayer at the beginning of each council meeting. So the response for you, Travis, is during the course of the year, the governance rules meeting procedure went out for public consultation. Submissions from the public supported the inclusion of the prayer on the agenda. Council resolved on 25th of August 2020 to retain the prayer and look to broaden the diversity inclusion of various religions. And more broadly, from where I sit, at least, 50% of the Nillumbik community having a religion is a significant portion of the Nillumbik community. It's about engagement, Travis. It's about council do much the same thing that our organised religions do. They try to help people, and it's trying to spread their message, and it's us trying to do what we can do to help people, with their help. I hope that answers your question. Mark McDonald. Don't think it's a relation of Mary. No, not your son. No. So Mark McDonald asks, could council please tell ratepayers how long was the consultation period for the tennis and basketball courts at Andrew Park in Eltham? So Mark, the use of Andrews Park for sporting activities, predominantly tennis, is contained in the Eltham Structure Plan, which underwent formal public consultation in 2020 for a period of about 6 to 8 weeks, almost 2 months. Additional consultation with the tennis club occurred throughout 2020, and in July and August, wider communication occurred, including media releases, Facebook posts, website updates, and call flute signs illustrating court location and plans. In relation to the Pocket Park, council will undertake community consultation on the detailed design, which includes basketball, should the grant be successful. Mark's second question is, in March 2015, the International Agency for Research into Cancers announced that it had reclassified the herbicide glyphosate from possibly to probably being carcinogenic to humans. In this statement, numerous countries have begun banning the use of and importing of known Monsanto products. Now, numerous councils in Australia are either banning and/or reviewing its use. Therefore, in light of what's occurring, what's the position of Nillumbik Council regarding the use by staff and contractors? So Nillumbik takes into consideration information for agencies such as IARC and also the regulatory authority in Australia, the Australian Pesticides and Veterinary Medicines Authority, as well as WorkSafe Victoria. We have implemented changes to work practices to minimise reliance on chemical weed control. Glyphosate may now only be used by staff in a very limited way. Grant Brooker. G'day, Grant. He asks, what internal controls and oversight process does Nillumbik Council have that would prevent any councillor from blowing their allowance by 30% on training/seminars and conferences, as was alleged during the Blue Lake ward election in 2020? So there are internal controls in place to alert each councillor if they are at risk of exceeding their annual training allocation. In compliance with the council expense policy, each councillor has the ability to spend more in training through a resolution of council. And we also know that there's any councillor wishing to undertake the Australian Institute of Company Directors course are exempt from that requirement in terms of allowance. So will Nillumbik reassure residents via the Nillumbik News that allowances cannot be blown by 30% or 300% or 3,000% by any Nillumbik councillor without action from Nillumbik Council to prevent that overspend of ratepayer funds? So the council expense policy provides guidance with regard to the councillor training expenditure. The response is on the public record and will not be published in the Nillumbik News. That, I think, are all the questions. So we'll move on to our next item, which is reports of advisory committees. There's one attachment there, the Health and Wellbeing Advisory Committee meeting minutes held on the 9th of September 2020. I'm just looking for a mover. Thanks, Councillor Egan. So moved, and looking for a seconder. Councillor Duffy? Yes, did see your hand go up there. Any discussion on the minutes? No, none of us were there. Put it to the vote. All in favour? Against? It's carried. The next item is CM 185/20, intention to declare a special charge scheme for the Eltham Business Precinct. Looking for a mover.
Councillor Perkins, I'd like to move that if I could.
Absolutely. As per the papers, Councillor.
As per the papers, please. Yeah.
Yep. And a seconder?
I'll second that.
Councillor Egan seconds. Is there any discussion? Would you like to speak to it, Councillor Payne?
Just to say that I think this is a request made by Eltham Chamber of Commerce and Industry, a formal request that they put to council. It's a special charge scheme for marketing and promotion, and I believe we're following the request that they have put to us.
Councillor Eyre, did you wish to speak? Any other councillor wishing to speak? Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. I'd just like to say that I think that the scheme is a good thing because it adds to the vibrancy of our community. So whether this is in Eltham, whether it's in Hurstbridge, whether it's in Diamond Creek. So I'm supportive of these because, you know, without council assisting our chambers of commerce in the various townships, who would be doing the come here, buy local, it would all be left up to the individual traders. So I think it's really important that this is something that we encourage a collective approach on.
Thanks, Councillor Duffy. And look, I just clarified with the officers about on page number 12 of the office of the agenda, paragraph 8. It talked about should a new agreement be endorsed, a compulsory membership to Main Street Australia is recommended. And what officers are recommending in that is that the Eltham Chamber of Commerce join Main Street Australia, and the cost is about $75 a year. That would be supported, I'd imagine. And just broadly on the special charge schemes for the Eltham Business District, it's a scheme put to council by the businesses in the activity centre or the part shown in the attachment. It's their scheme. If they want to go ahead with it, we will collect the money on their behalf via the rating system and give it straight back to the Eltham Chamber of Commerce. So there is no, it's money in, money straight out of the council books. Every cent that we collect goes straight back to the Eltham Chamber of Commerce, and it's totally up to those businesses as to whether or not they support the scheme as promoted by the Eltham Chamber. But I think it is a good scheme. They've done fantastic work over many years. It's well worth supporting, and I'd encourage all businesses to do that. Having said that, if there's nothing else, councillors, I'll put that motion to the vote. All in favour? Against? And it's carried unanimously. Special charge scheme, Hurstbridge Village Business Precinct, and I'd imagine Councillor Egan.
Move the recommendation as per the papers that council gives the notice to intention to declare a special rate scheme for Hurstbridge Village Business Precinct.
Thanks, Councillor Egan. The seconder,
I'm happy to second that.
Councillor Rankin. Back to you, Councillor Egan.
Ram Charan.
Oh, Ram Charan. Oh, God. It's not
Thank you,
Rankin at
Mayor.
all, is it?
Hurstbridge is a little bit different to Eltham in that ours aren't based on the capital improved value of the properties, so it's a set amount for each trader in Hurstbridge. We had our first traders meeting last Friday at a very early time in the morning, and it was attended by all of those on the committee and staff from Nillumbik. They've done an amazing job, I think, with the small amount of funds that they do have in Hurstbridge. It's you're looking at quite a small number of businesses in Hurstbridge, and most of them all come to the fore and support the traders group. Unfortunately, our Christmas decorations have been vandalised for the first time ever, which was quite a pity, but they're rallied around and everybody supports everybody. It's such a small community. As I said, if people have an issue with this, they can put in submissions. So this is only just setting the agenda of what's going to happen. So hopefully it'll be passed and our traders group will be able to get on doing their post-COVID business. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Egan. Councillor Amcharan, did you wish to speak?
No, thank you.
Look, along the similar lines of the Eltham Chamber of Commerce, the Hurstbridge traders do a great job and support the business community and the wider community around Hurstbridge and beyond. So hopefully they all get behind this special rate scheme. It's a little bit different to the Eltham one in that they supply, or they provide a fixed amount per business, where the Eltham one it's based on the CIV. But yeah, great to see it get support of council, and we hope that it does get up. So I'll put that to the vote. All in favour? Against? That's carried. The next item is the September quarter financial report, and I'll look for a mover. Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. I'd like to move the recommendation, as it's listed on the papers, that Council receives and notes the financial report for the period ended 30 September 2020, and the attachments are in the agenda if people are wanting to see the details. One of the things that...
Councillor Duffy,
I'll stop speaking,
I'll just call
talk
for
later?
a seconder. Yeah,
Yep,
just get a
okay.
seconder first, then we can go back to you.
I'll second that, Peter.
Thanks, Councillor Stockman, and back to you, Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Councillor Stockman. That's where I'm a rookie. This is the first motion that I've speaking on in this way, so there are some things that I'm getting right and some things that I'm getting wrong. But I think the thing that's really important is that we get right how we spend our money, and this is something that I was really interested in looking into the detail of. In the recent election campaigns, I heard from lots of people, and how council spends its money is very important to the community, and it's important to me. And so, as a group, we've all had discussions, and that's something that we're very focused on. And in our induction here, it's been great to meet the officers and see the work that they put into how they do their job. So I'm wanting to just pull out a couple of factors with where we're at with this. I found it really interesting to learn that council has been affected in a way that we've had over $1 million that hasn't come into council coffers because of impacts with COVID, and a lot of that is to do with the money that we would get from leisure centres, etc. The other thing was the costs that we've incurred as a business because of COVID, and that's around there's almost $100,000 with that, where we've given out some grants to help other businesses, but as a workplace, the council's had $60,000 that we've been spending to be compliant. So that's a lot of money that was not expected to be lost in our budget. And then one last comment about that would be that, the previous council decided not to put a rate increase up, and so that's money that we also don't have because there was a 0 rate increase on rates. So I'm really keen to make sure that we all look closely at the dollars, and for the community that are watching tonight, there's a way that you can help with how council spends its money. One of the things that I noticed in the report was that we cop a charge from recycling. So there's a lot of recycling that we do, which is great, but there's a lot of contaminated recycling, and all of the recycling that's not fitting the specs, we actually get charged for. So, that amount was, $95,000, but, people at home, if you're wanting to try and help save some money and consider how your rates are being spent, maybe if you could just take a little bit of care with what you're putting into the recycling bins. Is it actually recycling, or does it need to be cleaned a little? Because that would help us be able to be more frugal in the money that we're spending as a council.
Thanks, Councillor Duffy. Councillor Stockman.
Thank you, Mayor, and just wanted to apologise. I did say Peter, I'm learning too, but thank you, Mayor and Chair. And I'd just like to concur with Councillor Duffy, and I do really value her research and how much she looks into things. Thank you.
Is there any dissent, councillors? We'll put that to the vote. All in favour? Against? That's carried. On to the next item, which is the Communities First project. I'll look for a mover.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the Council's recommendation that Council notes the progress of the Communities First project and the launch of the Communities First Bushfire Preparedness and Resilience Grants Program.
Councillor Regan, okay, so you're moving the alternate motion, or was it the officer recommendation?
Yeah, I didn't actually get a copy of the alternate motion. I'll read it as it is on the screen. So it's, as I just said on the first point, in 2 amends dot point 1 from the eligibility criteria of the Community Bushfire Preparedness Grant Guidelines to read as follows. Delivery projects that benefit bushfire preparedness and resilience in Nillumbik. This criteria is linked to the funding provided under the Victorian Government's Safer Together funding, with priority given to projects benefiting rural communities including Strathhewen, St Andrews, Panton Hill, Christmas Hills, Bendiviles, Smiths Gully, Hurstbridge and North Warrandyte.
Thanks, Councillor Egan. Do we have a seconder?
I'm happy to second that.
Thanks, Councillor Ramcharan. Councillor Egan?
Thank you, Mayor. This is actually stage 2 of a particular project, which is again the second point, the second phase of a bigger project, which started out as our bushfire mitigation strategy. So phase 1's actually of the whole project's actually completed. So that had 4 points. First off, we had a lot of consultation with the community members who were already active in bushfire preparedness to ensure that the project meets current community needs. Secondly, we sent out a postcard to 13,000 rural residents to launch the project and ensure that there was really broad community awareness of the project. Then that was followed up with webinars on bushfire topics such as Indigenous cultural burnings and a joint session between Nillumbik, CFA and Art Recovery. And the fourth part of that was ongoing community conversations, particularly in St Andrews. So we actually won some awards for those conversations. So that was sort of phase 1, and this is part of phase 2. So because of the evidence and the feedback that we gained from phase 1, the following elements are planned for phase 2. So we have community bushfire preparedness and resilient grants to support community-led bushfire preparedness. We have ongoing community conversations, and we also have initiatives to meet the needs of Nillumbik's diverse communities, as well as development of community resources to improve the sharing of bushfire-related information. So what all that means is we actually were very successful in obtaining a grant from the state government, and councils also chipped in as well. But out of that, we have a pool of $15,000, which is a maximum of $1,000, and that will be available to people putting in submissions with a certain. There'll be eligibility criteria and other criteria on who actually is successful in that. And the main thing that sort of cements all of this together is collaboration. So it's teaching residents to be self-sufficient and self-sustainable in their own fire mitigation. So it's not the community relying on the CFA or council or MFB or SES or all these other emergency services. It's about teaching them to take control of things for themselves and actually have their own responsibility in helping look after their own welfare. And it's also about collaboration with all of these rescue services and fire services and getting them all working together. And the first time this was actually used was in the Plenty Fires I've forgotten when they were now, last January. We're coming up to nearly 12 months. And that proved how well that this system worked. So this is an ongoing strategy. Again, as I said before, it's phase 2 of the original fire mitigation strategy, which I was really proud to get off the ground with the previous council and the assistance of Craig Lapsley. So I'm hoping council will support me in this ongoing into the future. And this is one area where everything in Nillumbik depends on. Without a successful fire mitigation strategy, there is no Nillumbik. So everything else depends on this. Our wildlife, our biodiversity, our communities, our infrastructure, absolutely everything. We must get this right. So it's incredibly important to everybody in the Shire. So I commend the motion. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Egan. And the second, Councillor Ramcharan.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, fire is something I take incredibly seriously, and to echo what Councillor Egan said, this is something that affects residents and biodiversity and ecosystems within Nillumbik. So we do need to get this right, and I'm fully in favour of measures to help mitigate fire and to help strengthen the community and improve community response. I won't talk for long. I just wanted to talk to the slight amendment that's being made here to the eligibility criteria. What we've done is we've simply taken out one word. We've removed the word rural from that criteria. What that does is it means that now anybody from across the Shire is able to apply for that funding. But it also retains that priority on more rural areas, which is important. We need to get past this whole rural-urban divide. It's not about us versus them. We're all the one Shire, and as councillors, we're here to govern for the whole Shire. So that's why I think it's such a good thing that we can change the eligibility criteria to make this available to the whole Shire. But what does need to be acknowledged is that people in rural communities, and I do have a lot of rural area within my ward, people in rural communities have very different needs, and fire affects them very differently to how it would affect urban communities. And I really think that the amended wording acknowledges that well. It makes sure that rural communities aren't going to miss out, but it also makes sure that the urban communities won't miss out as well. So that's why we've altered the wording there, and I'm happy to second this motion and support it.
Thanks, Councillor Emcher. And any other councillor? Councillor Eyre.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that through this program, it'll allow stronger partnerships and relationships to be built, and those relationships are really important when we do come to a tragic event, bushfire, floods, whatever the situation is those relationships are key to faster recovery and putting things in place. So this program will cement those relationships. Thank you.
Any other councillor? Thanks, Councillor Eyre. Look, I might just make a couple of comments. And look, this is a good program, and I certainly support the program. And I'm keen for this to be a start in a broader project that does some more work, in the rural parts and the urban parts of the Shire. They would have different conversations, people in the urban parts of Nillumbik, which broadly includes even Hurstbridge is an urban township. So the conversations that are had in the middle of Hurstbridge would be different to the conversations that would be had for landowners on broad acreage of 20 to 100 acres. True as well, the conversations, the discussions around the fire risks around the Plenty Gorge would be different to the fire risks in the centre of Diamond Creek. There's a lot of conversations that need to be had right across the communities in Nillumbik. This is an important first step, and I think it's worth doing. This will go well, and this will hopefully be the lead into some more grant funding from the CFA, and we'll put in some money as well, of course. But yeah, it's a good program, and I think it's an important amendment that Councillor Egan made, and thank you for doing that. If there's nothing else, councillors, I'll put this to the vote. All those in favour? Against, it's carried. The next item is the Council Plan Quarterly Performance Report, 20 to 21 in the first quarter. So I'm looking for a mover. Councillor Emcher.
I'm happy to move that, as per the papers.
I will second.
Thanks, Jeff. Councillor Payne. Back to you, Councillor Emcher.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a relatively straightforward motion, so I don't see the need to speak for long. Just to note this report, and it has been received by Council.
Thanks, Councillor Emcher. And Councillor Payne, you should speak. No. Any other councillor wishing to speak to this item? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All for? Against, it's carried. On to the draft community engagement policy. I'm looking for a motion.
I will move the motion, please.
Councillor Payne.
I'd like to move the motion as written, that the council endorses the draft community engagement policy for further community consultation from 16th of December, tomorrow, through to the 26th of January next year. Note that any amendments will be made to the policy where appropriate when the community consultation is concluded and prior to the future Nillumbik committee meeting on the 9th of February. 3, note that the community members are able to make submissions and speak at that future Nillumbik committee meeting on the 9th of February 2021. And 4, note that the final community engagement policy will be designed and presented for adoption at the council meeting on the 23rd of February 2021.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Councillor
Yeah,
Stockman.
I'll second the motion, Mayor.
So basically, the law has changed with the Local Government Act, and it requires us to go out to the community and have a community engagement policy. Thanks to a number of different factors, it's happening at the worst possible time, which is at the end of an extraordinary year, and we're all heading into holiday season. But such is the timeline that we need to go to the community to talk about going to the community. And get their submissions in, well, written submissions, I should say, by the 26th of January. They do have a chance to speak, of course, if members of the public want to, in February. I have taken an active interest in this. I've suggested to the comms team that we should use some social media, and I may even end up making a video or two to basically jog the residents along to see if they can join onto the Participate Nillumbik site, the portal, have their say on a number of issues and start that whole process of getting used to feeding back to council. They want us to be, what are the 5 things? Informed, consulted, involved, collaborative and empowered. That's a lot. And so my task, I see, on council is to try and do exactly that, get the community involved and hear what they have to say.
Thanks, Councillor Payne. Councillor Stockman, you should speak. Any other councillor wishing to speak? Everyone. So I'll go to Councillor Eyre.
I just wanted to say that I'm really pleased that we've got a community engagement strategy that we're going to use across the Shire. So basically, this will be the grassroots of everything the council does. It will feed into everything else that we do, and so this is why it's important that we reach out to as many residents as we can, and that we receive as much input from the community, so we can actually get this right. And that way then, when we do talk about other things, this feeds into those policies and feedback and information and how we work with community. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Eyre. Councillor Ramcharan.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I'm also very excited to see us working on a community engagement policy. I've had a lot of feedback from residents, especially during the campaign, that community engagement in Nillumbik is subpar, and I really hope that through this process we're able to rectify that. I think the policy still needs a lot of work, so I'm really looking forward to getting some thorough submissions from residents during this consultation process. I know it's happening during the holiday season, which is a real shame, but unfortunately due to state government imposed timelines, we really have no other option than to consult throughout this period. So please take the time while you're celebrating to just have a quick read. It's not a long document, and make some comments, because it really will help us. I think this policy really needs to tackle what consultation has become in this day and age, in the age of social media, where our community has a drastically shortened attention span, especially in the younger generations. And if we really want to achieve representative consultation, we need to figure out how to spread a message to everyone, which is not an easy thing to do. There's so much information circling around out there these days, and to get our consultation and our engagement out there in the hands of residents is not an easy thing. So I really hope this policy can address that. Some things I think we really need to look into are having a much bigger focus on social media, including paid digital ads to make sure everybody gets the chance to contribute. And we need to make sure that consultation is concise and quick and easy. Rather than making people read a 20-page document, give them a short summary and let them respond to that, because it's better to get something rather than nothing, which is what you'll get if people feel like they have to read long pages in order to make comment. Another thing we need to do is to improve transparency and really take feedback on board. And when feedback isn't taken on board, we need to explain why to residents. I think they really deserve that when they've gone to the effort of giving us that feedback. I really hate to hear from residents that their voice doesn't matter and that they don't feel listened to. And I really hope that we can come up with a policy that's going to change this. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ramshaw. And Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. I'm really excited about this as well. During the community engagement and council being meaningful is one of the reasons why I wanted to run and be part of the council, and bringing the community back to the heart of council is what I campaigned on and why I'm here. And I think one of the things that really disappoints me, and I don't want to be negative, but I am, is that yes, there's a government requirement for this to be passed by the 1st of March. We all need to have a community engagement policy, but you know, our council chose to be tardy in this. Like, there are lots of priorities, and I'm getting the hang of that because it's just there's a huge moving feast with council. But I've noticed with our consultation, we do have some things up for a long time, like, you know, what do you think of Edendale Farm? Or at the moment, the climate action policy. So please get your feedback in by, I think, Sunday on that one. But this is one that council chose not to go to the community with until very recently. And, you know, it was done very quickly. Only 191 people gave their feedback. So thank you to the 191 people that did. But, you know, there are so many people who didn't even know that this was happening. And so now we've got a rush to put a policy together that's on a very small basis of what people think. So I'm excited that we've got an opportunity for people to go out and comment on that. And I really hope that we do a good job of letting people know in the next few weeks, so starting from tomorrow through until Australia Day, that we want you to give feedback on how you want to engage with council. And I'd just like to draw a couple of the comments that I've noticed in the report that's come back from the feedback from the 191 people. How satisfied are you with how council seeks community feedback? Over 30% said that they were not very satisfied. Another comment here was, how satisfied are you with how council responded to the feedback that you provided? Almost 35% said not very satisfied. So the numbers are pretty grim here. The other comment is, you know, there was a question about barriers, you know, what stops you from engaging with council? And the biggest feedback here was that 70% of people don't even know that the engagement's happening. So as a council, I know that this council and the councillors that I'm on the table with are very committed to ensuring that the community has a strong voice, and that helps to form and shape our community vision, our council plans. And in reading through the particular comments from people, I'd just like to highlight a comment. And I don't want this to be the way forward. You know, we need to work hard to make sure that this is meaningful and not just a tick box. They seem to only ask certain groups to get the answers they want that state the majority view. I usually only find out about the feedback. I usually only find out because someone has shared the link to a local community page on Facebook. So that gets back to Councillor Ramshaw saying council needs to maybe do paid ads. We need to do a different way of telling people that we want their feedback rather than just putting on our website. A couple of other comments. Seeking feedback is only a meaningful exercise if it's fed into the decision-making process and isn't merely lip service. Completely agree. Council needs to work harder at seeking community feedback, including multiple sources, letterbox drops, online.
Councillor Duffy, your time is up.
Thank you. So I just want to stress that this is really important and we're not going to let it go. We want to make sure that we hear the community and give them a chance to speak.
Thanks, Councillor Duffy. Any other councillor? Probably just a couple of notes that I'd made, been covered by some, but 191 participants, so that's not a lot of participants really, but it was during a 3-week period from 26th of October to 15th of November. The only opportunity was via our online portal, Participate Nillumbik. And what I took from that, not surprisingly, most of those people wanted, their channel preference was email. So 86% of them wanted to be contacted via electronic means. Now that's probably a nature of the engagement. You know, when we engage on the website, they would like to be contacted via email. But if we broaden our engagement process, you'd have other people that would, if we write to people, you'd probably have people who write back and say we're happy to have a letter delivered. Look, I think it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress that we'll have to undertake for 4 years and beyond. It certainly will be a key feature of our council plan. But this is a start. The officers have done some good work to get something, so we can put something out to the community. We'll hopefully get a lot of feedback from this process, but we do have to have nailed the policy by March. So thanks for your comments, councillors. We'll put this to the vote. If no one else wishes to speak, all in favour? Against, it's carried. The Nillumbik Youth Council. Looking for a motion, Councillor Ramcharan.
I'm happy to move the motion that Council endorses the terms of reference for the establishment of a Nillumbik Youth Council as a formal advisory committee of Council, subject to the following changes. Under term of appointment, remove the final dot point. Under member responsibilities, add an additional dot point as follows. Actively engage with other young people in Nillumbik to inform decision making with a particular focus on engaging with those who are too young to have representation on the committee. And 2, ongoing funding to the amount of $12,500 per annum to allow for remuneration of the Youth Council members and funds to deliver youth-led actions identified in the youth strategy.
Thanks, Councillor Ramcharan. Looking for a seconder? Councillor Eyre. Back to you, Councillor Ramcharan.
Well, I'm really excited to be moving this motion as the youngest councillor elected to Nillumbik. I was elected at 24 years old, so it's really good to see this this project to engage young people like me in the actions of council. I think a lot of us really wanted to make this happen when we got elected, so it was a nice surprise to us to walk into a briefing and find out that all the work had been done for us already, and all we have to do is vote in favour of it. I'm in the sort of the upper age limit of the youth council, so youth councillors can be 25 or 15 to 25, and I really believe that young people need a voice. During the election, I'd faced a lot of discrimination from certain groups based on my age. People who commented that I was too young to be on council, made out that I wasn't a good candidate because I still live with my parents, which is an unfortunate reality for people my age these days in terms of housing affordability. So there is a real barrier that stops young people from getting elected, and I think having a scheme like this is a really good way to bring young people in and give them a voice on council, and show that us young people really can do good work. Growing up in a time of social media, and more recently COVID, has created a quite unique set of circumstances for my generation and younger generations, and it's led to significant impacts on mental health and well-being of a large proportion of young people. In addition to this, the terrifying reality that we are in a climate emergency, coupled with the issue of completely unaffordable housing, has made many young people, including me, fearful of what our future will be like if we get a future at all. So giving us a voice through a youth council, I think, is an incredibly important thing. Just to touch on the changes that we've got on the screen, the removal of the final dot point under term of appointment is simply removing a duplicate dot point. So there were 2 dot points in there saying the same thing. We're removing one of them. In terms of the part B, there were concerns from some councillors, including me, that 15, having the minimum age as 15 would mean excluding the younger children in our population. And I think 15 is the right age for a youth councillor because it is a demanding role and there are a lot of responsibilities. So I think we do need to keep that age at 15. But to make sure that younger people still can be involved, we're making a responsibility for members of the Youth Council to actively engage with other young people in Nillumbik, especially those who are too young to have representation on the committee. So it means young people of all ages can be heard, even if not all of them are old enough yet to be eligible to sit on the council. Thank you, that's everything.
Thanks, Councillor Rancharan. Councillor Eyre, did you wish to speak?
Thank you. I'm really excited for Nillumbik and our youth. The forming of a youth council will allow our young people to have a say in how we support them, what we support them to deliver, and where we deliver it. So, for instance, Nillumbik has had other committees such as positive ageing groups. I think it's now time that we have a representative committee that will give all our youth a voice. We have many passionate young people in our community, and we need to be able to support them to channel their ideas or their frustrations into positive outcomes for them and for the community. And we need to make sure we include groups such as scouting groups, sporting clubs, youth groups, primary and secondary schools, and to build on what Councillor Ramcharan was saying about the age group, being able to look outside the age scope is really important. So I'm really, really excited. Looking forward to hearing even more. While I was campaigning, we were hearing about the BMX bike paths and mountain biking and basketball 3x3s. So I'm hoping that some of these things, if that's what our young people want, we might see them come to life. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Eyre. Any other councillor wishing to speak? Councillor Duffy?
So, thank you. I agree. I'm really excited about the Nillumbik Youth Council, and young people have got so much to offer, and that's where we can see Ben as a young person on this council, but we shouldn't be surprised by that. We've got really passionate people, clever people of all walks of life, and some young people doing amazing things when it comes to the environment. And I'm thinking of young people with their achievements as well. And I'm hoping that with the Youth Council, that's one of the things that they can look at, not just the voice, coming to council to shape policy, but also helping council acknowledge the achievements of young people. So in Edendale, there's a young boy, his name's Mason Boucher, he's 12. He's the Australian champion at the moment. So in COVID, when we're all doing crazy things, he becomes the Australian champion off-road AD5 cc class. So essentially it's motorbike riding. So, we should know about these things and we should celebrate them, and we should, try and help encourage our young people with their endeavours, whether it's sporting, whether it's cultural, whether it's whatever they're interested in, because our young people are our future. So this is where the Youth Council is great. And today I was speaking to another resident of Edendale, and she was explaining to me how back in 1997, so that's quite some time ago, she was on the Youth Council for the council area that she lived in, which is a metropolitan council here in Melbourne. So we're catching up, but she said that what her experience on council, the Youth Council, gave her was an opportunity to look into policy and to work for community service, and she now works in family violence. And so, people get doors opened up to them when there are opportunities like this. So I'll stop talking and let the youth talk in the future.
Thanks, Councillor Duffy. Any other councillor? Just a couple of so it's Youth Council of up to 15 young people aged between 15 and 25 years of age. We want people who are passionate about being involved in their community and representing the diverse views, ideas and needs of young people in the Nillumbik area. So just a couple of key points. They'll have a youth mayor. So the youth mayor will be elected by a majority of the Youth Council and will stand for a period of not exceeding 1 year. The normal term of the Youth Council will be a 2-year period. There'll be a deputy youth mayor and also elected by the Youth Council for a period not exceeding 1 year. There's some payment, might interest some, and certainly a lot of the young people would welcome some pocket money. So youth councillors will be reimbursed for their time and out-of-pocket expenses through a payment of $500 per year, paid in 4 instalments of $125 per quarter, and only when 80% attendance is met throughout the year. So they'll have formal advisory committee members of the Youth Council, and they'll be held on a Monday between 4 and 6 p.m. Every second month, and they'll also meet fortnightly informally to support the planning, development, implementation and evaluation of Council's youth strategy and action plan. There'll be some additional hours involving some weekend school holidays, there'll be some training. It'd be a great thing for our active young leaders to get involved in, and I commend the motion, and thanks for Council's support and initiation. Really, this new council got this up very quickly. So, and the officers have done a great job, of course. I think a lot of the work was just waiting in the background, sitting in the background waiting for somebody to give it a nudge, and this new group has certainly done that, so well done. I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? All those in favour? Yep, it's unanimous. Councillor Duffy, I knew you'd support it. Against, none. It's a unanimous decision. Thanks, councillors. The next item on the agenda is Whittingham Circuit proposed sale of land, looking for a mover. Councillor Stockman.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I'll move the motion to support Whittingham Circuit proposed sale of land as per the papers. There is a slight change, and it's on page 156 of our agenda, and I'll just read that part out, section 2 there. The purchaser will be required to enter into an agreement pursuant to section 173 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, which provides that the purchaser and future landowners must not consolidate or subdivide any of the lots comprising the land for a period of at least 10 years after settlement of the contract of sale.
Thanks, Councillor Stockman. Do we have a seconder?
I'd like to second that.
Thanks, Councillor Payne. Back to you, Councillor Stockman.
Thank you very much, Mayor. This goes in continuance of our meeting last week, and it's a sensitive issue, and we've had a lot of consultation on this issue. As I said last week, it's very visible. A lot of the residents know about it. It's been there for a long time, and I do thank some of the other councillors too to look into it as well. Councillor Eyre and also Councillor Duffy as well. And I do thank you as well, Mayor, for looking into this. It's a hard one to put on top of us because it's we're a new council and we'd like to do so much and so many different things, but in this particular instance, I believe it's responsible for us to vote in the way of selling the land with the in accordance with the papers.
Thanks, Councillor Stockman. Councillor Payne, you wish to speak? Any other councillor wishing to speak on the matter? Councillor Egan.
Yes, this is really an ongoing saga that's been going on, I think now 4 terms. Correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Perkins. Each council's inherited it from the previous one, and it's now fallen over twice with 2 sales. So we really need to get on with it. It's cost us a lot of money, and we, as Councillor Duffy's already mentioned, we've got a shortfall in a number of areas, and we need to get this done and sorted and get on with other issues in the Shire. So I will be supporting the sale. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Egan. Any other councillor wishing to speak? Councillor Ramachan, I saw your hand first.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been umming and ahhing over this motion for the past 2 weeks. It's a really difficult one. In general, I really am opposed to sell-offs of council assets, and I would prefer to see land staying in the public hands. But at the end of the day, this is a process that's been going on for 10 years due to budget decisions that were made before this council got elected. It would be financially irresponsible to hold off on selling this land. And that's why I am reluctantly supporting this motion today. Had we gone through this process this year, next year, I would have maybe wanted to guide it in a slightly different direction. People have suggested other uses for this land, which I think would be much preferable to what we're doing with it, such as public housing. And I think really this is a fantastic spot for public housing. It's near some shops, it's near a library, it's near a school. But at the end of the day, we've missed the boat on that, which is a real shame. I really hope that over our 4-year term, we can create a good strategy for public housing to make sure that we can create more public housing within Nillumbik. It's just a shame that this is not our opportunity to do that. So I will support the sale. I'm glad to have the subdivide added back in there. That was an accidental omission during the community consultation, but we are able to add that back in, which is pleasing. And yeah, I will support the motion.
Thanks, Councillor Ramcharan. Councillor Duffy, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mayor. It was March, I think, of 2018 that I first stepped into this chamber. I was one of many people within the community who were opposing the land sales of reserves by the previous council. And, at that time, community feeling was that we didn't want the land sold. We wanted to save those parks. I acknowledge what other councillors have said in terms of budget and maybe missing the boat and all of those sorts of things, but I'm not going to be supporting this motion. I think we get one chance when we sell community assets, so I understand that there were previous councils that made these decisions and that council has spent $2.2 million in fixing up the space so that there's some bitumening of roads, there are some, there's water and gas, etc. But, we do get to choose who we sell it to. And, I would like to see us have, again, put the community at the heart of council decisions. So, social housing is something that is important to me. I'm thinking there could be a component of social housing with this. It's not something to scare people. In COVID, we've seen how very quickly your circumstances can change. You can lose your job. You can experience family violence. So where do people go? And if it's not next to me, it needs to be next to somebody. And in a conversation this morning with a woman who works in family violence, I asked her about housing. And I know that with social housing, Nillumbik is rated in the state as having the 12th highest need for social housing. So if we don't use this opportunity, when do we start? We don't have a homeless housing policy. We don't have a social housing policy. But as a council, we can work towards that. So that's really exciting to hear. I'm just kind of thinking it's a shame to not have a component of this as social housing. So I'm not quite sure whether that's appropriate to say or not, but I just wanted it to be known that I think we can do more in this situation rather than just selling it to the highest bidder. It's how do we want our money sold? Selling community assets to receive money to do things is great, but then it's the what we do. And so for me, there are just two last things I'd like to say. Last Wednesday, I attended with members of the community a women's safety walk that we started from the Eltham Leisure Centre and walked around part of Eltham. And that was to end the 16 days of activism for family violence and violence against women. So that was kind of an awareness campaign, and we all agreed that things need to happen. The following day, I attended a council meeting, which was the Health and Wellness Advisory Committee, and the people on that do great work, and I listen to community and I listen to people that work in these areas talk about the need for this. And so here I am conflicted as a councillor that we've got an opportunity to do something here and we're actually just going to sell it. So I would like to see us do more for community when we're looking at selling community assets.
Thanks, Councillor Duffy. Any other councillor wishing to speak? I'll say a couple of words on it. I got into council in 2010, and that was a by-election, so the council was halfway through its term. But even at that stage, this site and the notion of selling some land around this building was alive then, had been alive for many, many years. The land was zoned public use zone Schedule 6, which basically meant it was reserved for municipal purposes. There had been a move from the previous council to the first one I got on, which was in 2010, and that would have been the 2004 to 2008 council, where they'd proposed to move the Shire office, which we're sitting in now, move it to Eltham and subdivide the whole area. There was a lot of community uproar. Brian and Mary, they would have been here, would have witnessed it. It started to settle down by the time I got on council. There was a decision to sell a small portion of what was previously proposed to be sold, and that really is those two lots that we're talking about, the lots down south of us and also those that have been sold directly to our west. So there was a lot of community conversation over many, many years. There were things done to support the local community, and that was their concern. It's like, well, what do we get out of this deal? Council are making money on selling off land that was never parkland, but it was reserved for municipal purposes. It was really reserved for extension of the civic centre, more offices. But we were proposing to turn into residential blocks. Local community wanted something out of that. And really what the agreement was that settled them down was to build a park and to spend, I think it was about $500,000 on all the park and improvements to the outdoor performance centre. So that was something that the local community got out of that. They've enjoyed those spaces for some years now. The local community aren't opposing the sale. I think they're a bit exhausted by a 10-year process. They really just want housing that fits in with the local character, that is not out of place, that doesn't devalue their own properties, and they recognise there is room locally, for some more families. There isn't great opposition to the proposed sale of this land anymore. There certainly was, but the concessions that council have given up over many, many years, I think has appeased the local community to a large extent. So I'll support this motion. It puts the land on the market. We've just got to see if we can find a buyer. We've had 2 buyers for this land previously, where they purchased the land and they didn't settle. One of them lost their deposit. We don't know what market forces are going to do, if we'll get a buyer at all, but it's time to put it back on the market for the 3rd time and see if we can find a buyer for this property. I'm out of time. Sorry, councillors. If there's no other councillors wishing to speak, I'll put the motion to the vote. It's all those in favour? And against? It's carried. Did you want to call a division, Councillor Duffy? To have your...
Oh, yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Duffy's called a division. So all those in favour? It's Councillor Ramachan, Councillor Eyre, Councillor Payne, Councillor Perkins, Councillor Stockman, Councillor Egan, and against? Councillor Duffy. Thank you, councillors. The next item on the agenda is the curbside recycling disposal. And I'll look for a mover. Councillor Payne.
I think I'm moving this.
You are.
I am, indeed. Okay, then I'm moving it. Okay, so I'd like to move the curbside recycling disposal motion as per the papers.
Thanks, Councillor Payne. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Duffy. Back to you, Councillor Payne.
Yes, this is a continuance of a service that became all too important a couple of years ago. China basically led the move to stop taking our recycled waste, and it sent a shockwave through most of the Australian community. And since then, we've been scrambling to find service providers that can look after waste disposal. We have a choice of one, so I think we should continue with the choice of one that we have at this point. And but it is an important thing that we need to start looking into effective ways of managing our own recycling and waste disposal, and the withdrawal of being able to package it into container ships and send it overseas means that we have to deal with this issue ourselves, and I think it's probably about time that we did exactly that. This is part of what they call a circular economy. We're going to be speaking more about this as we go forward. A bit like climate change, it's about using the same things again and not just expecting that we can keep using resources and putting them into landfill at the other end. So basically, I think this is a sensible motion that we need to continue with.
Thanks, Councillor Payne. Councillor Duffy?
Thank you. Nillumbik is a great area in terms of what the community does when it comes to recycling. And as a council, we've been able to be leaders in waste management for many years. During this year, the state government set some recycling roadmap, and it set out a range of targets, and that's where it's great to see that Nillumbik has already achieved one of these. So the targets include the percentage of waste from landfill, cutting down the waste generation per capita, the volume of organic waste that goes into landfill, and looking at recycling services. And so I think that that's where the 2 points that I'd like to shout out to say how excited it is to kind of get some stats on this. That's where it's been nice to know that we do our right thing as individuals at home, and businesses try to do their bit, and as a council it's supported that way, is that the introduction of food and organics is one of waste is one of the state government targets, and Nillumbik we started doing this 17 years ago, back in 2003, and so the state government has set a target for other councils that don't do this to be doing it by 2030. So it's great to be leaders in this space on that. And the other thing that we're on track with is Nillumbik has a higher than average landfill diversion rate. So that means it's 60%, which is higher than the state average, which is 40%. So I think that that's a great thing for us to know that we're achieving really good things when it comes to recycling. And the other thing with recycling is just that looking again at the contamination so that it is not, so that we can actually have the recycling that we want to have recycled, so that there's more of it. But the last thing I'd just like to say about recycling is looking at how we repurpose, and it's not just what goes into the yellow bin and is collected with curbside curbside recycling. I'm getting a bit tongue-tied here, but there's some repurposing. And I'd just like to point out and give a shout out to Joan Dennison, who during COVID, with assistance from other people that recycled their fence palings, and Joan, with recycling her fence palings, created a lot of joy and community spirit in painting ISO chooks that are scattered around Eltham and the Shire and other neighbouring councils. So yeah, it's just a big pat on the back to Nillumbik residents for doing their bit when it comes to the environment, in terms of recycling. So I support the motion and follow what Jeff had to say, and I'm going to zip it now.
Thanks, Councillor Duffy. Any other councillor wishing to speak? I think it's a fantastic way, Councillor Duffy, that you've weaved the ISO chooks into the debate. So well done. It is good to see. That happened, and it's not often a councillor brings along a prop, but well done to you. Just recycling in general, and it's perhaps not particularly on the same topic, but I would say with recycling, I hope that this council can progress the concept of recycling beyond curbside. So in our townships, in our activity centres, in our parks and reserves, at our footy clubs, at all those other places where recycling apparently doesn't matter. Where there's one option, and put all your stuff in the red bin, and it all goes to landfill. So when we talk about moving away from our own properties and we move on to council land, it's 100% landfill. There is no diversion at all. So it's a major risk if we talk about climate change, all the rest of it. It's something we're going to have to tackle. I hope we can do it within this 4 years. But I think the community is broadly quite educated about what recycling means and the benefit of recycling, and we don't have a heap of contamination from curbside waste. We can always improve, but we really do destroy our own message when we don't offer recycling bins in our townships and all the places that we have absolute control over. So that's my little spiel on that one, but support the motion, of course. If no other councillors got anything to say, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against, that's carried unanimously. We're next on to the bitumen spray sealing works. The tender report contract 2021-17. And looking for a motion, Councillor Ramcharan.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move a slightly altered motion. So I move that Council enters into a contract for 2021-17 bitumen spray sealing works with the recommended tenderer and accept their tendered schedule of rates exclusive of GST. Contact details are as follows. Number 2021-17, title bitumen spray sealing works. The term is from the 11th of January 2021 to the 10th of January 2023. Term extensions up to 2 additional years with a possible full contract end date of the 10th of January 2025. 2. Authorises the Director of Operations and Infrastructure to finalise and execute the contract documentation. 3. Requests officers to bring a report back to Council to review and approve the options to extend the contract term for a maximum of up to 2 further years. 4, advises all tenderers accordingly. And 5, makes public the decision regarding this contract, but the tender, evaluation and report remain confidential.
Councillor Ramchan, I'm just reading, discussion earlier was about requesting officers to bring a report back to council in 12 months. Was that the intent?
Yes, that was the intent,
So-
Mayor. I'm happy to change the motion that I'm moving.
Can we write it in? The 12 months? Yep. So request officers to bring a report back to council in 12 months?
I'm happy to change 3 to that wording.
Yep. So we'll just get that happening. Have we got a seconder to that? Thanks, Councillor Eyre. So while we just include that back to council in 12 months, if you wish to speak to the motion, Councillor Ramchan.
Thank you, Mayor. So during my campaign, I had a resident ask me whether council was using recycled bitumen for road sealing, and I quickly discovered that unfortunately we're not. The contract we're considering today will lock us into a provider which by default does not use recycled bitumen, and that's something we'll be doing for the next 2 years. And that's fine because change takes time. So I'm happy with the motion as it stands now. The impact of the change of the wording is that originally the motion would have delegated the power to the Director of Operations and Infrastructure to extend this contract a further 2 years after the contract term. What the new wording does is it means that in 12 months a report has to come back to council on the quality and the effectiveness of the road sealing program, and council will approve an extension if that's what we wish to do. Just to flag, at the next council meeting, I will be bringing a notice of motion to pilot a program of using recycled products in road sealing works. And what that motion will do, hopefully, is to bring a report to that same council meeting. And that will allow council to fully consider the quality of the recycled product versus the quality of the product we're currently using. And my hope is that through that we'll be able to make the decision to transition to a fully recycled product, which will be more sustainable and more environmentally friendly. So that's why the motion has been slightly altered. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the result of the pilot if that gets up next meeting.
Thanks, Councillor Amtran. Just before I go on, officers have noticed a slight error in, or governance have noticed a slight error, and it's hard to read on that screen, but if you can see dot point 5 says, make public the decision regarding this contract, but the tender, evaluation and report remain confidential. So what's been suggested is that we delete end report because we've got the report in front of us and it's already very public. If the mover and seconder would support striking the words end report.
I guess I can be convinced of that.
Yep. Happy with that, Councillor Eyre? And did you wish to speak to the motion, Councillor Eyre?
Only that I'm looking forward to receiving the motion next week by Councillor Ramchan about looking at other options for use to see whether we can use recycled products. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Eyre. Any other councillor wishing to speak? Councillor Duffy.
Just one more thing. I agree with what Councillor Ramcharan has said here. Instead of making this a contract that goes for 4 years, giving us the opportunity to review it, particularly in line that we've asked the community to give input into the climate action policy that we prepare. And there could be other factors that we want to consider as well with our bitumening and roads. For example, I've heard people talking about heat-resistant paint and how that helps with, the heat island effect that comes off bitumening. So this could be a car park or it could be a road. So, I don't know enough about this area, but, in time and with enough education and information, we can make good decisions. And I suppose the bit that I've noticed in what the officers have said in their report here is that this tender is going to save us 13% on what we've been currently paying for the bitumen spray sealing works that happen. So when you've got a $1 million contract, that's important to be able to save money where you can.
Thanks, Councillor Duffy. Any other councillor? If not, I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Against, it's carried. And on to CM 195/20, the informal meetings of councillors' records. Looking for a mover.
Yes, Councillor Perkins, I'll move the recommendations as in the papers.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Eyre? Councillor Egan, do you wish to speak to it?
No, it's self-explanatory.
No. Councillor Eyre? If there's no other councillors, we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against, it's carried. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is notices of motion. No. Delegates' reports. Any delegates' reports, councillors? No, not this time. Supplementary and urgent business. We've got 3 supplementary and urgent business items that councillors have submitted since the agenda was put together. The first is Jeff Payne has advised his intention to have following item of urgent business admitted. The motion is in front of you, councillors. You've all been given it, but apparently we need a motion from Councillor Payne to admit this as an urgent business item. If I could call for that motion.
I'd like to propose the motion as written.
It is to the motion would be to admit.
Okay, read it out.
Seeking to admit.
Oh, so that I'd like to propose a motion to admit this, seeking to admit this urgent item of business.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Eyre. Is there any discussion, councillors? It's just he's not moving the motion yet. It's just actually getting it onto the agenda as an item of urgent business. If there's no discussion around that.
I just wanted to say that ECAG have been putting in tremendous work towards alternate options that reduces the impact. But
Councillor Eyre, it's we're not talking about the item yet. We're just actually trying to get it on the agenda.
Oh, sorry.
So we'll dispense with this if no other councillor wishes to speak to the motion. It is just to admit it into the agenda. So I'll put that to the vote. All in favour? Against, that's carried. It's now onto the agenda, and Councillor Jeff Payne advises us that he has a motion.
I do, and I think that Deputy Mayor Councillor Eyre will steal my thunder because you've got something really well prepared. Basically, I just wanted to move this. This was suggested last week as something that we should act quickly on. This is the ongoing problem of the roundabout proposed for the end of Fitzsimmons Lane, or Fitzsimons Lane as it's spelt. We are basically seeking that community consultation be entered into in good faith. ECAG and many of the members of the community feel like this has been imposed on us. I understand that major works at a state level are important, large scale, wide-ranging with massive budget implications, but Eltham is not famous for its roundabouts but its trees, and I think that we would lose one and gain the other. All we are asking is that we have genuine community consultation, and especially from a government that's told us, in fact mandated, that it wants its residents to feel involved, communicated with, consulted with and informed. And I think that's all we're asking. And that we get the attention of the state government in this process. I've been working with ECAG on this for a few years, and we have come up with a number of proposals that minimise the damage done to the area, and that's our main concern. How can we make the traffic flow? The numbers may have changed, COVID may have changed working habits. We don't know who is going to be working on a regular basis and using that roundabout. And given that the feeder roads aren't really changing, it seems that we're building a large, well-lit car park at the end of Eltham. So I would ask that councillors support this motion, that we write to the relevant government ministers and alert them to our concerns. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Payne. Councillor Eyre.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that ECAG have been putting in a tremendous amount of work to offer viable options that reduces the impact of the roundabout or the traffic lights and retains the roundabout. So I just wanted to acknowledge all the work that they've been doing. I also want to know that we've done all we can to keep the pressure on, so this motion is really important. That there are many questions left unanswered, and I want to know that we also have, and through those unanswered questions, having community on a representative committee would be really is really important to get those answers through community being involved. I also want to know that coming back through that roundabout, that we know that we're coming back into Nillumbik and then we're coming into Eltham, and that we feel that's our home. We don't want to feel like it's changed the whole feel of coming into the gateway. I also want to let Swipers Gully residents know that I'm also pushing for the Leanne Drive lights to happen before the roundabout. So hopefully we can see that happening sooner than later. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Eyre. Any other councillor wishing to speak to the item? Councillor Ramcharan.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, this has been a disappointing project right from the start. There's been a lack of regard for what the local community wants, and it's been quite disappointing. We do have a huge problem with traffic in Melbourne, and improved infrastructure is an important part of resolving this issue. But it needs to be reasonable, and it must be appropriate for the character of the area. When a project gets as much opposition from the community as this one has, it really baffles me that the government doesn't see the need to review their decision. We're looking at the loss of hundreds of trees and an area of asphalt as big as the MCG in the gateway to Eltham and the gateway to our shire. Nillumbik is not a concrete jungle, and we never want it to be. You just have to look at Yan Yean Road to understand what we could be facing here. That project never should have turned out the way it did, and it has put a permanent scar on what was once a very beautiful area. I really hope our letter to MRPV has an impact. The current state government has done a fantastic job of doing what needs to be done in terms of infrastructure, among other things. It's a track record to be proud of, and I think, honestly, this is probably one of the best governments we've had in a long time. But they run the risk of losing support if they go full steam ahead on projects like this when the community is not on board. So I implore them to take this feedback on board, slow down, rethink, and create something for our area that we can all be proud of. The state government, the community, and the council. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ramcharan. Any other councillor wishing to speak? Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. I won't say very much other than, in November of last year I was at the Eltham Festival, and this was a huge topic of conversation for all the people that came up to the tent that I was on. And MRVP were also at the Eltham Festival taking some feedback from the community. So, I concur with what the others have said. When we're travelling along these roads to get to our destinations, whether that's out of the Shire or coming into the Shire, it's not just efficiency, you know, it's not just do we save an extra minute in this trip, it's how do we feel on this trip. You know, I love driving down through treed roads. I really like driving through Manningham, down through, you know, and I acknowledge the recent plantings that they've done along Fitzsimmons and Williamson's Lane beforehand. But with this gateway, it's really important, and so it does need to be a welcome, and it does need to be green, and it does need to be able to have the community say, the community voice heard. So I'm really hoping that MRVP will listen to at least the vegetation side of the argument, so that we can feel that we're not in, you know, a concrete jungle, that we don't have some of the problems that happened with Yang Yin Road in terms of it looking like it's lots of cement. Let's make sure that we can have the landscape, the environmental side of this considered really strongly. There's been a lot of effort that's been put into it by both sides, the government and the community, and surely there's a way of being able to come forward so that we're happy when we drive through this space, rather than being angry every time we go through because something has been missed in the planning and the delivery of whatever comes from this change that's about to take place.
Thanks, Councillor Duffy. Any other councillor wishing to speak? Councillor Egan.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I concur with all my fellow councillors. I remember meeting Sue and Carlotta from ECAG, I think 3 years ago now, down on the roundabout, and we couldn't understand then how they would get so many lanes out of what is just a lovely area and leading into Eltham Lower Park, etc. And at that stage, a lot of the planning was hidden. There were hundreds, if not thousands, of trees just coming over from the bridge in the Manningham side and the Banyule side as well. And a lot of this, they obviously had a preconceived idea. A lot of the planning was kept away from us, so we couldn't actually find out what was going on. This has been a set position from day one. They've moved probably 0.01% in their planning. I applaud your efforts, councillors, but having done this 3 times already, I don't think we'll get anywhere. They've made up their minds, they just want to get on with it and do it, but I will support your motion. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Egan. There's no other councillors wishing to speak. I might just say a couple of words. I'll support the motion. What it does was indicate to the state government that you know, there's a new council now. You know, 5 out of the 7 are new councillors. We still don't like the proposal. We do represent the community. The last council represented the community on this issue. The issues raised in letters in August and October 19 and May 2020, we will reaffirm that we still share those concerns. We certainly want a response about the alternative intersection proposal. It's a roundabout. You know, we all would like a roundabout, you know, in preference to the current design. And we want to be assured, absolutely, that that proposal has been duly considered, and we want to know why they're continuing with their current proposal. And we want a community and stakeholder advisory committee. You know, it's been talked about, they've promised it, it hasn't happened. What about the community and stakeholder advisory committee? Even if we don't get a roundabout, there's a lot of community input and improvements that can be made throughout the process, and it's not too late for the state government to listen and to take on board the community concerns. You know, regardless of what's built, whether it's a roundabout or the current design, a lot of people are going to be unhappy to some extent. There are others that will just, you know, think it's a great benefit because they can move through the area faster. But, you know, we do care about the environment. We care about the gateway to Eltham. It's iconic, and really what's proposed is far from ideal, and we represent the community in saying, you know, in this form we don't really want it, and you know, at least give us a response why the roundabout can't work. There's a background there, but I think Councillor Payne, you're absolutely on the ball with this motion, and thanks for the work you've done. Even on council, but certainly for years before getting on council. So, job well done, and we'll have another crack, and hopefully we'll get some meaningful responses back, which we can share with the community. So, if there's nothing else, councillors, I will put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And against? That's carried.
Division.
And a division. So we'll go for the vote again. All those in favour, it's Councillor Amtran, Councillor Eyre, Councillor Payne, Councillor Perkins, Councillor Stockman, Councillor Egan, and Councillor Duffy. Yep, it's a unanimous decision. And that's fine. It's fine to call a division on a... people can change their mind, and it has happened that on a division, councillors can change their vote. Brian will remember some of those antics in past years, that some councillors always like to be on the winning side, and when the vote doesn't go their way, they can call a division and cross the floor, so to speak. The next urgent business item deals with the planning for Melbourne's green wedges and agricultural land options paper. So first of all, we need a mover to admit this urgent business item onto the agenda. Councillor Ramsden's happy to move that?
Yep, I'd like to move an urgent business item on the topic of planning for Melbourne's green wedges and agricultural land options paper.
Thanks, Councillor Amtran, and looking for a seconder?
I'll second that.
Councillor Payne, is there any discussion on getting this onto the agenda? No, we'll put it to the vote then. All those in favour? Against, that's carried. And looking for your motion, Councillor Amtran.
I move that Council authorises the Mayor to write to the Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning, CC'd to the Minister for Planning, Interface Councils Municipal Association of Victoria, the Victorian Local Governance Association and local MPs, seeking an extension of the closing date for submissions on the planning for Melbourne's green wedges and agricultural land options paper, noting that COVID, the relaxed restrictions and the holiday period, more time is required to enable appropriate and considered submissions to this vital state planning process. 2. Requests officers brief council on the adopted submission by the previous council and requests officers to amend as directed by council. And 3. Requests officers to report back to the January council meeting.
Thanks, Councillor Ramtran. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Payne. Councillor Ramtran, do you wish to speak to it?
Thank you, Mayor. Look, the importance of this project cannot be understated. The outcomes of this will have a significant impact on planning for all 12 of Melbourne's green wedges, including Nillumbik. And it's something that will have a lasting impact on processes that are central to local councils. Yet the consultation for this process has been run during an election period, during caretaker period, and is now being run during December, which is one of the worst times of the year in terms of getting responses to consultation. I know the project has been delayed due to COVID, which is part of the reason for this, and for this unfortunate timeline. But at the end of the day, we want to get this right, and we want to make the most of this opportunity to have a lasting impact. So it really is worth taking the time with this. I hope to see the submission deadline extended, and I hope to be able to resubmit the submission from Nillumbik Council after a chance to further consider what we can really achieve with this project. In particular, a couple of issues that have been pointed out to me with regards to the Nillumbik submission. There are suggestions under this project to create so-called transitional areas, also known as buffer zones, which could see things like schools and places of worship being approved on the green wedge side of the urban growth boundary. This is a rather concerning change, and it could see areas of urban growth start creeping into our green wedges. It's not something Nillumbik should be supporting, and that's something that I hope we could iron out if we were given extra time to redo our submission.
Thanks, Councillor Ramcharan. Councillor Payne.
Just wanted to speak in support of Councillor Ramcharan's point that he was making there. This potentially is a huge change to the protections involved in the green wedge. We do need more time for ourselves to look at the proposals and for the community to have submissions and to talk about this. And the hard urban growth boundary is something that was introduced and has been the key to protection of the green wedge, and it's something that we need to continue to protect. So that's something that we should be looking at very, very closely.
Thanks, Councillor Payne. Any other councillors? Councillor Egan.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Perkins. Mayor, sorry, I'm getting confused now. Yes, I actually support your motion, Ben, but for different reasons. Both you and Councillor Payne have talked about the green wedges, but this whole issue, nobody's mentioned agricultural land options paper, which was what this originally started off as. And it was before the election period and before COVID, before the holiday season. It was a totally different document, as Councillor Perkins might remember. This was all about looking after the land and our food bowl around Melbourne. The scope has now changed entirely. That's the reason we need to go back and have more consultation. This is nothing like what was originally proposed. It's now 100 kilometres from the middle of the CBD, which is the biggest change of scope. And the UGB actually wasn't an issue at all in the original scope. This was just about green wedge zones, not green wedge councils. There's a massive difference. And it was the planning and the agricultural impacts all related to our food bowl. It's nothing to do with that anymore. This has moved on to bigger and better things. The other point I'd like to make is that we already have schools and places of worship in green wedge shires. So I'm not sure. I'd like some clarification perhaps when we get some details from staff. If we have another Black Saturday, what does that do to rebuilding schools and churches in those areas? But yes, for a totally different reason. Again, I hate to be a party pooper. This is already a preconceived, a determined outcome, and this will just be going through the motions. I'm very cynical, but I've been through this before. I'd love it if I'm proved wrong. I'll be the first person to apologise to all of you, but unfortunately I've seen what happens. But love your enthusiasm, love your passion, and I'll support this 100%. Thank you.
Any other councillors wishing to speak? Look, just to sum up, so the Planning for Melbourne's Green Wedges and Agricultural Land Options paper was publicly released only last Friday week. It's the single most important opportunity to influence planning outcomes for our green wedges across Melbourne, and we are known as the Green Wedge Shire. It's also the first real opportunity since legislation of the urban growth boundary to push for further protection of the integrity of green wedges through changes to the planning scheme. So the changes not only affect, importantly Nillumbik, but all the green wedges around Melbourne. So the previous council has made a submission, and they submitted that well before the closing date, before their term finished. But it's important there is an opportunity for this council to have a look at that submission, endorse it, amend it, make another submission if need be, because we've still got some time. So it just lets this council put its stamp of approval. Yep. So it gives this. So this motion gives this council an opportunity to have a good look at that submission and those changes to scope and is that submission still appropriate for what this council believes to be the case today. So hopefully it gets support of the group. It sounds like it would, and thank Councillor Ramcharan for getting this up. If there's nothing else, councillors, I'll put it to the vote. That's all in favour. Against? It's carried unanimously. Did you want to call a division on that one, Councillor Ramcharan?
Reckon I'll call a division on the next one, but not on this one.
Okay, good. The next one is an urgent business item. Councillor Ramcharan has advised his intention to have another item admitted to the agenda. So I'll hand over to you, Councillor Ramcharan.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm seeking to move an urgent business item on the topic of support for refugees being transferred from the Mantra Hotel.
I have a mover. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Eyre. Sorry, Councillor Eyre. Is there any discussion on including this into the agenda?
Look, I might just talk to why I believe this is urgent business. So this is something I became aware of this morning, that the federal government is today trying to move a number of refugees from the Mantra Hotel to another detention centre. We're not aware of where they're being moved. These refugees were taken to Mantra under the Medivac bill, and as the contract with Mantra has run out, they're being transferred. I think this is a very timely issue, and that's why I decided to bring this motion to Council today.
Thanks, Councillor Ramcharan. Anyone else wishing to speak to the motion to get it on the agenda? No, I'll put that to the vote. All in favour? Against? It's on the agenda. Councillor Ramcharan, wish to move something?
I'd like to move that Council 1 notes that Nillumbik Council signed a refugee welcome zone declaration at the citizenship ceremony on Thursday the 28th of July 2016. 2, expresses support for the refugees being transferred from the Mantra Hotel today and requests that the federal government treats them and all other people seeking asylum in Australia with respect and dignity. 3, confirms our willingness to accept refugees into our community. And 4, requests that officers communicate the above by A, collaborating with the Mayor on a media release, B, publishing the media release on Council's website, C, adding a temporary message in the automatic email signature for all councillors and council staff, and D, posting on Council's social media channels.
Thanks, Councillor Ramcharan. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Eyre. Back to you, Councillor Ramcharan.
Thank you, Mayor. The first meeting of council I ever came to was in 2016. I sat right over there in the gallery, and 6 councillors were in attendance that night, and there was a motion to support the refugees who were being settled in Eltham. And I was incredibly proud that night to see all 6 councillors present vote in favour of a motion to accept and welcome those refugees. And that's what led to Nillumbik declaring itself as a refugee welcome zone. It really means a lot to me to be able to sit here tonight to continue the tradition, Nillumbik's strong tradition of supporting refugees. And that's why I'm so happy to be moving this motion tonight. In this last year, we were told to stay in our homes, and when leaving our homes, stick within a 5-kilometre radius. And that put a huge burden on Melburnians, and for many of us, it was probably one of the worst times of our lives. But to put that in perspective, some of the people in the Mantra Hotel have been in there for more than 18 months in the one room, allowed to leave that room once a day to go to the gym downstairs. For 18 months, they have not left the hotel. Why have they been subject to such treatment? Well, it comes down to the government's determination to stop the boats. And sure, they've succeeded. They have stopped the boats, but at what cost? People have been denied their human rights, and also as boats don't sink on the way to Australia. But those people who would have drowned on the boats are still dying in their home countries. But at least it's not happening on the way to Australia. It's out of sight, out of mind, and it's not our problem. That's the attitude that's being taken by our government. Today there have been protesters outside the Mantra Hotel intending to blockade the transfer of these asylum seekers. undertaking the act of civil disobedience. What that tells me is that people are losing respect for the rule of government because they are so ashamed of what our government is doing. And that's a very dangerous thing. It shows why it is so incredibly important that the government listens to people and does the right thing. Tonight, as a local government, we don't have the power to make any material change to the lives of those refugees, but we can show support. We can stand up and do the right thing, and show that not all governments and not all politicians are bad. So I implore councillors to support this motion. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ramcharan. Councillor Eyre, did you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I look back when Welcome to Eltham became a ripple through the community and we saw butterflies springing up everywhere. And I think that was one of the first signs for me when I saw how strong our community is and how passionate we are when we get behind a cause. And it was amazing. I was a council officer at the time, so I was fortunate enough to be the main liaison point between Welcome to Eltham and council. And I was really pleased to actually be in that role. I was also really fortunate to be invited along with Councillor Duffy and Councillor Payne to a meeting last week with Welcome to Eltham, Grandmothers for Refugees and the Montmorency Asylum Seekers. And we heard about all the great work that they're doing, and some of it's hard work and some of it's really wonderful work and a sense of achievement that comes from that. As a welcome refugee zone, Nillumbik Council continues to welcome refugees into our community, and I fully support that. And I want to know that we are treating people humanely and with respect and dignity. And I hope that we can continue to do that in Nillumbik. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Eyre. Any other councillor? Councillor Payne.
I just wanted to add to what's been said by my councillors Ramcharan and Eyre. Just to add that this Shire, and particularly welcome to groups like Welcome to Eltham, are on the record as saying we protest against this government's treatment of refugees. We've got this officially sanctioned policy of torture and punishment, and it has to end. And the protest that we see at the Mantra is people making that real. Humble, quiet, idealistic people making that real and saying we are ashamed of our government's behaviour and we don't want this anymore. So I support the motion, and I hope that this pushes up the message to a federal government that has lost its way. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Councillor Payne. Councillor Stockman.
Okay, look, I won't support this motion, and I'm not supporting this for a number of reasons. Number one is I ran for council 4 years ago, and I was labelled a racist because at Judge Book, of course, we had the 130 Syrian refugees that went in there, and I stood up for one elderly lady that was in the facility that wasn't given any transparency, and I went out, and I was the only person who went out and saw her, and I spoke to a lot of people in the community when I was running, and yeah, look, I got into obviously a big argument. Usually I stay a bit quieter, which I have this time, but I got into an argument with the Eltham community, and hence I lost the election. But I stood up for my values, and my value was what I said. There was 5 million Syrian refugees at the time that needed help, and somebody said to me, well, let's take them all. Let's take all 5 million. And I mean, it gets to one point, I know in this situation it's a different situation than what I'm saying, but some people's mentality is just drop everything, and that might even be for your own betterment. And Ben, you mentioned you haven't got a house at 25. Happy birthday, by the way, today. But at 25, I mean, I bought mine at 22, and we could afford to buy a house then too. So it's a economic emergency at the moment. So I just think that's sort of the urgent business that I would bring up, but I won't be supporting this motion.
Thanks, Councillor Stockman. Councillor Egan.
Thank you, Mayor. Neither will I, but slightly different reasons to Councillor Stockman. I heard a little bit about what the treatment that was meted out to you back then. But I agree with everything that Councillor Eyre and Councillor Ramtran and Councillor Payne have said. But yes, we all did, all councillors who was present on that day did sign the refugee welcome. But that was because it was in Nillumbik. I'm a Nillumbik councillor and I was elected by Nillumbik residents, and this was a Nillumbik issue. To me, this isn't. And I know it's just showing support. Nobody's come to me, nobody's approached me, whereas with the Syrian refugees, because it was in our shire, people did, and people opposed it as well. But that was about Nillumbik. This isn't a local council issue. And Councillor Ramcharan, in your acceptance speech, you said you weren't going to bring politics into it, but this is a political situation. We aren't Darebin and we aren't the City of Yarra. I feel really strongly that we should be representing the people that elected us in what they wanted, not things that nobody's even approached me about. I haven't had a phone call, I haven't had anything from anybody. So I can't, in all conscience, support this on that basis. Perhaps if I'd had a petition or somebody'd rung me, somebody'd done something from my residents, I'd have a different opinion, but they haven't. Although I am sympathetic to everything. This is about Nillumbik, not another shire. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Egan. Councillor Duffy.
I support you, Ben, with this motion, and as a councillor, I believe that I'm representing the people in the area that I live in. I feel like I'd just like to say that I've actually had 2 invitations by people in our shire to go and attend the rallies out the front of the Mantra, and I wasn't able to attend on Saturday and I wasn't able to attend on Friday, and I would have liked to have been there. Hearing that the refugees were being moved on this morning, I thought that was great, but I'm also very concerned. And having the meeting on Friday with Welcome to Eltham, Grandmothers for Refugees and the Montmorency Asylum Seekers Support Group, made me really proud of the people that are in our community that care about equality and respect. And at the beginning of this meeting, we had an acknowledgement to country. We acknowledge that we're on Wurundjeri country. So the Wurundjeri have invited us into this country. Whether we came here as refugees, free settlers, whether we were born here because of 1, 2, 3, 4, however many generations, this country is open to others. And just the treatment of Aboriginals in our country, there are so many things that I'm upset about there, but also with refugees. So I'd also like to actually amend the motion as well to see if the council would like to encourage the council to sign the Time for a Home campaign. Maybe this is not the right thing to do. I'm not quite sure how to... I'm still a learner with being a councillor and how to put things into motions and whether even it's appropriate at the moment. But there is a campaign called Time for a Home. 120 organisations across our country have joined it. It's asking for an end to detention centres. So it's calling for the Morrison government to resettle people in a permanent home by World Refugee Day, June 2021. In 2018, I went to a book launch by Baruz Buchani. The book's called No Friend But the Mountain, and he talks about his experiences as a refugee on Manus Island. And, it's true reading. I'd recommend it to people. And, that experience was terrible, reading through that story and being involved in that launch and being able to have a connection to that man who no longer is in detention, but nor does he live in Australia as a free person. So I want to make sure that these people that are being moved on are being moved on to somewhere where they're being respectfully treated. So I do think that this is as a local government, we need to be leaders in the way that we encourage respect. Even if we don't have a refugee centre in our shire, there are people who have strong feelings on this, and there are people in our shire who would like us to take leadership on this issue as well.
Thanks, Councillor Duffy. Just getting some governance advice as to whether or not an amendment can be brought in at this stage, because we're just trying to confirm that it fits in with the motion.
If
Absolutely.
it doesn't, that's okay. But that's, I suppose, I'm signalling an intention that, as a council, I'd like us to take a next step,
and
which
perhaps
would be to sign that,
we-
to have some more information presented about it.
Okay, you're happy,
Yeah.
happy to
Happy to
take
have
that
that
offline
happen.
and officers
Yep.
to do that. Yep, but you're obviously supportive of the motion. Look, I'm broadly supportive of the motion. The only concern I have around it is the temporary message, on automatic email signature, for all councillors. I respect that, there are councillors in this room that may not want that automatic email signature on every correspondence they have from council. So I'm not sure that's absolutely appropriate. And the other one is, same with the council staff. For us as councillors to impose any automatic message on every staff member of the organisation, I'm not sure that's really fair, and that would normally, be a conversation perhaps with the CEO, because I don't know that we're actually quite empowered to do that. So they're the concerns that I would have, and I just sort of wonder whether the mover and seconder would consider amending dot point C to remove council staff and so add the temporary message in the automatic email signature for or supportive, or councillors who are happy to have that. I'm not sure about the words, but can I assume, Councillor Egan and Councillor Stockman, you wouldn't want that automatic message on your email? Yep. So if we can get some, can you understand the intent? Is that? Yep. Adding a temporary message in the automatic email signature for councillors wishing to have it included. Yep. And it just puts it back on. There's a conversation between the councillors and the IT department about what that message will be, and whether are you guys comfortable with that amendment? Or
I'm happy to reword part C. So the wording would be adding a temporary message in the automatic email signature for all councillors and council staff who are interested. So just adding the words "who are interested" before the semicolon.
I'm just worried about the council staff thing, like the logistics of actually going out to every council member or every staff member, 400 people in the organisation. That could be weeks of work.
Okay, we'll remove the staff if that's.
Yeah. So it's easily done for a group of 7, for 400 staff.
Okay. Adding a temporary message in the automatic email signature for all councillors who are interested.
Yeah, well, I don't know if interested is the word. For all councillors
who wish to do so.
Yep. And I think, I'm not sure what I'm not sure about the rules around electronic signatures are, more broadly. Is it an individual councillor's decision to decide what they want? No. Okay. So we're happy with that?
Yeah, how do we know what the message will be? Do we work that out at a later date?
We'll work that out amongst the 5 of us. Yep. Okay, so you get the right to reply, Councillor Amcharan.
Thank you, Mayor. I really don't consider this to be something political. This is an issue of human rights, and I can't stand by and watch human rights abuses being done by my government. And I think as a councillor, it's my duty to call that out. So I don't regard this as political at all. This is about standing up for human rights. And to say this is not a local issue, well, we're all citizens of this country. We all vote, we all pay taxes, which are being spent on taking people's rights away from them. So it affects every single one of us, every single person living in Nillumbik and wider Australia. And we have so many groups in Nillumbik who support refugees, including Welcome to Eltham. We know our community is on board with supporting asylum seekers in Australia. And I really do think this is something that the Nillumbik community would want to see us doing. And this is not about accepting millions of refugees all at once. The motion says nothing about that. It doesn't endorse some policy that simply isn't sensible. This motion is about doing the right thing by people who have suffered enough. In terms of housing affordability, yes, I do struggle as a young person, knowing that housing affordability is something that's quite out of reach for many young people in Australia. Bringing refugees into the country will not change that. And blocking them from coming in will not change that. This is not immigration, it's humanitarian intake. Our immigration intake is huge in Australia. The humanitarian intake is not. And increasing that and bringing refugees here will be tiny compared to the impact of immigration. And these are the people who really truly do deserve and need to come to Australia. So this is not about housing affordability. I don't want to make it about housing affordability. And I would happily forego cheap housing in order to give these people a home because they are suffering. While young people are struggling in Australia, people in mandatory detention are suffering a lot more than us. And we need to put our struggles as a Western society into some perspective and really be mindful that even though we might have problems, we are incredibly privileged compared to some people in this world. And that's why I'm moving this motion today.
Yeah, my understanding is that it was just amended, because it was amended with the approval of the mover and the seconder, we didn't have to go through a formal amendment process. So had the mover and... oh, look. Okay, no, I'll let you speak. Is it up to me? I'll look for a direction from council. You're happy to let Richard have a minute or two? Yep. Sorry, Councillor Stockman. Go ahead.
No, thank you, Mayor. No, just with the amendment there to point 4C, I'm actually happy to support your motion, and I do applaud you for all the good things. And sorry, I got a little bit fired up there because it was a bit... I thought the way it was worded before was forcing us into something that we perhaps didn't have an option for. But now the way it's amended, I actually do, we'll support your motion, that's it.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Stockman. Rotary reply's been had. We'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? And against? It's carried.
Division?
2 divisions have been called, but we'll just do one. Division called by Councillor Ramcharan. All those in favour? It's Councillor Ramcharan, Councillor Eyre, Councillor Payne, Councillor Perkins, Councillor Stockman and Councillor Duffy, and against Councillor Egan. All right, thanks Council and staff and gallery. We got through it. It was a good meeting. Thanks for your attendance. Turn off the telly and go and do something else. And we'll be back for OCM in January.